Celebrate Thermaltake's 20th anniversary with the smallest chassis in the Level 20 series, the Level 20 VT. This case supports up to Micro-ITX motherboards, and its unique orientation of the motherboard tray offers native vertical GPU fitment. The VT supports custom LCS and AIO options, including radiator mounts in the front, top, and side, with fan mounts in 120, 140, and 200mm sizes. The top tempered glass panel has a gap to support airflow and can be interchanged with either side panels to allow additional airflow to an area of your desire. Store more with options for SSD and HDD mounting to store all your games on the go. To learn more about the Level 20 VT, check out the link in the description below.
This is Shannon with Thermaltake, and today we're going to introduce you to the Core V1 Mini-ITX chassis. Now that we have the Core V1 out of its box, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the important spec details for the Core V1 Mini-ITX chassis. Okay, and here you see the spec details. Core V1 model name, case type, it's a Mini-ITX case. Here's your dimensions. Obviously it's a very small cubicle chassis. SPCC material. Drive bays. You have two 3.5, two 2.5s, which will show you shortly. They support both hard drive and SSD or 2.5-inch notebook hard drives. Two expansion slots for full-size graphics cards. Standard Mini-ITX motherboard support. I/O ports, which is your standard for an I/O, we'll show you again once again shortly. You have the cooling system on the front, which is included the 200mm fan. Then you have what fans will fit it, what radiators will fit it, and even what kind of clearance you have. All the way up to 140mm on an air cooler. Otherwise, you have from your inner and outer chassis for the graphics cards to show, along with your PSU installation, anywhere from 180 to 200 plus millimeters, basically, depending on what you fit there. But we'll take a look at that shortly. Now let's take a look inside the chassis and see what kind of fitment options and other features this chassis has to offer. Okay, now looking at the chassis itself, you have the front, which is a filtered mesh going here that allows your inlet airflow. You also have the open mesh on the side, which allows airflow through the chassis, in through the side, or out through the side as needed. Now let's take a look at the front I/O ports. Okay, now here we have the front I/O, starting with your hard drive LED and power LED. Then you have your power button, along with dual super speed USB 3.0, headset and microphone port, and your reset button to round out all of your front panel connectivity. Starting at the front panel, pulling everything apart, you can see what the front panel just has clips that you can just pull the front panel off easily. It has a foam material that works as a filtering medium, so therefore you just blow air through the back, clean it out, and it keeps everything, all the dust under control, keeps a lot of it out of your case. And speaking of airflow, the large 200mm fan, which comes pre-included right on the front, now this can be pulled and replaced for push-pull radiator setups or whatever configuration you prefer for 120 or 140mm, or the 200mm you can leave as it is and even run something inside. But let's go ahead and we're going to look at that in a moment in the inside. But let's take a look now at the wiring for the front panel and what comes included. The front panel connectivity, you can see here, first of all, you have your front panel power reset, hard drive LED and power LED connectors. You have your internal 20-pin, which is used for your USB 3.0 front ports, or can be converted to USB 2.0 via an adapter, which we also offer, just in case maybe your chip motherboard doesn't offer the newest USB 3.0. We have your HD audio front connector, and we also have the 3-pin fan header for your 200mm fan at the front of the chassis we just showed you. Okay, next up would be the drive mounting in the Core V1. As you can see, both drives are mounted vertically. Now, as we said, it supports 4 drives, 2 2.5, 2 3.5. So these trays lift out like that. They have a screw that mounts right to the top into the motherboard tray area here. And you can see the 2.5-inch hard drives mount right on the back, or SSDs obviously can mount right here, and your large 3.5 mount here. So then you just take it, you place it back in, push it into place, and then put the one screw right back down into here, and it's now solid mounted, which allows also another added benefit here is your cable management. Any wiring behind here is now hidden behind the drives itself. Now let's take a look inside at what the motherboard tray has to offer and also your PSU mounting. Okay, now inside the chassis, you can see it's actually quite spacious because your Mini-ITX board and mounting all end about here. You've got a very large CPU tray cutout. Obviously, once the power supply is mounted down below, it's going to block this area, but during initial assembly, you can swap coolers or put the cooler on with the motherboard installed, which can make it much easier depending on your type of cooler you're using. Now, speaking of cooling space and other spaces, you have a very large area right up here behind the 200mm fan where radiators can populate, or you can run your cabling or even tube reservoirs, what have you. And all this space down here with the dual chamber design, the top chamber made for the airflow going across the chassis, the bottom area, you can have all your cabling and stuff hidden away so that as you look down on your system, you don't see a whole rat's nest of wires going everywhere. Now let's take a look at the back and close out what the Core V1 has to offer. On the rear of the Core V1 chassis, you have the 2 80mm fan ports, which are optional. They don't come with a fan pre-installed, but if you decide you need the extra airflow or even a rear mount dual 80 radiator or what have you, you can install them right in these 2 locations. You have 2 expansion bay covers, which cover your full dual slot graphics cards, which coincide with the hole you saw on the front earlier, which allows the card to actually pass through to give us even larger graphics card support so that you can fit really high-end graphics cards where you normally would not in a Mini-ITX system. You also have your I/O plate here where you'll install for all your I/O on your motherboard, and your PSU cutout, which allows up to a 200mm or pretty much one of the highest end power supplies you can fit all the way up way past 1200 watts, which is way more than pretty much any Mini-ITX system will ever require. Thank you for joining us and taking a look at the Core V1. Now be sure to join the discussion on our social media channels or our TT community forums. You can find the links to those down below. And thank you for watching.